not enjoying myself out. Well, hey everybody, I hope you're having a great Valentine's week and weekend. This month, my movie commentary is on for one of my all-time favorite movies. I mean, it is just one of the most beautifully told stories I've ever seen on the screen. It is just, it's a romantic movie, in case you're wondering why I want to talk about this during Valentine's. If you're looking for a Valentine's movie to watch, I highly recommend this movie. I mean, it's got everything you want and more. It's got romance, it's got hope, it's got innocence, it's got love, it's got trials, it's got struggles, it's got suspense, and maybe some disappointments in there. But the way it is all woven together on the screen with the cinematography, I think it was nominated, the movie was nominated for like 2 Academy Awards, one of them for the cinematography, the other was for the director. It's just, it is an amazing movie. And to give you a little bit more information about this movie, it is a foreign movie. It is a French movie that was made in the early 2000s. So you will have to have unless you speak French, you will have to have the subtext going on. But it is also the purest form of nonlinear storytelling you'll ever see. I mean, for those of you who don't know, nonlinear storytelling is a story that is told not in chronological order. In other words, it doesn't take the natural story path chronologically in time. In fact, the scenes I'm going to do the commentary on today actually take place halfway through the movie. And this is the story of the 2 main characters, how they met as children, and how their friendship blossomed throughout adolescence, and they ended up falling in love and eventually getting engaged. But you don't learn anything about that until over an hour into the movie. The movie is 2 hours and 14 minutes long. So roughly around 1 hour and 7 minutes into the movie, you get this backstory of how they met and how their friendship grew and blossomed. So, okay, you know, during Valentine's, who doesn't dream of falling in love and marrying their best friend? You know, we all heard, friends make the best lovers, and literally this movie shows why friends make the best lovers. Now, I need to go ahead and give you a little disclaimer. This is a French movie. It's not a Christian movie. There are scenes of brief nudity. There is sexual content in it. But with that said, these scenes they're not grotesque. They're not Hollywoodized versions of love and sex. It's a beautiful story of love and physical relationship between a man and woman. And there's actually a really, really sense of innocence and purity to it. So that's really, really encouraging to see that they still have or share a sexual story not so Hollywoodized and from a worldly standpoint. So there are scenes like that. I want to go ahead and give you that disclaimer. There are scenes with brief nudity in it. There are scenes with sexual content in it. But I hope you're intrigued by this movie enough just to watch and just kind of maybe tune out, or if you're watching it on DVD or even streaming it, if you're bothered by the scenes, fast forward a little bit ahead through it. But I think you will feel comfortable enough to watch it just because the way the scenes are filmed is gorgeous. But the other flip side about it, the movie is a war movie. And there are some pretty graphic war scenes. I mean, true war scenes, like the parts of war that we don't want to acknowledge. I mean, we hear about war crimes now, what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. There were actually some war crimes done in this movie. I mean, the movie is set at the end of World War One. So that's when the whole world, especially in Europe, was fighting against German and the Nazis. So there was some war crimes, and I'll go ahead and ease your fears. It's not against the Jewish people. The movie is told from the French versus the German perspective. So most of the setting of the movie is in France. And it's so beautiful because you see the beautiful French countryside. And one of the things that draws me to the movie is that I spent part of my childhood growing up in Europe, in Italy. So I'm familiar with the European countryside, the little small European towns with the cobblestone streets. So as you watch this movie, you're taken to that European countryside, and if you're a romantic who wants to go to Eurorail, see all these little romantic European towns, or even Paris, those scenes are in this movie. I mean, you see Paris back in the early 1900s when it was still pristine, no trash. You see all the landmarks, not so touristy landmarks, but you see some of the non-touristy landmarks that, I mean, not the Eiffel Tower, but the marketplaces and all that. And it's really, really charming. The way the director, who is French, he filmed it awesome. I mean, the biggest star to me isn't Audrey Tautou, who is the main character. The biggest star is the cinematography, the way it is just shot. And I guess it's time for me to tell you what the movie is. The movie is A Very Long Engagement, starring Audrey Tautou. And Gerard, I can't say his name, I'm not trying to pronounce his name because it's in French. Ironically, this guy just died last year in a skiing accident, the guy who stars in this movie. So, don't expect to see him in a lot of other movies. He was supposed to be in the Disney TV series Moon Knight, but he got killed just before the series Moon Knight came out. So, they took his character out of the series. But if you have not seen A Very Long Engagement, now those of you who follow me on social media or on YouTube, you've heard me talk about this movie before. You've seen me, I've used the trailer for this movie in my screenwriting column because it is just a beautiful, beautiful story. Again, I have to give that disclaimer. It does contain brief nudity, and it does contain sexual content, and it does contain some pretty graphic war scenes. But honestly, I've seen just as much sexual content and brief nudity on TV here in America, regular TV here in America. Even the violence I've seen on TV here that's worse than this. So if you choose to watch it, go into it knowing, keep your finger on that, on your remote, so in case you want to fast forward through the war scenes or the brief nude scene. But But I have a feeling the sexual scenes that they're so innocent, so pure. You may just watch it because it's part of the innocence of the movie. The innocence of the movie is the way the director filmed the love scenes. And then I'm going to do a commentary on a scene that actually has one of those love scenes. Don't worry, in this video, I'm not going to show any, there's not going to be any nudity, no brief nudity, nothing like that. But you will see how he's building, the actor and the scenes in the story are building up to it. But it's not a raunchy type sexual stuff. Well, I take it back. There are some scenes with the soldiers, other soldiers, characters where there's some kind of raunchy sex scenes, but they're just brief backstory, kind of like storytelling where you see how bad these soldiers were and how wrong they were. But that's not the majority of the movie. These are just like brief backstories about how some of the bad things some of these French soldiers did in their lives. But to give you a heads up, be on the watch out, on the look for a multi-Academy Award winning American actress who, she does, I want to say a cameo in this movie, but it's more than just a one time. You see her character, and her character plays into the storyline big part, but it is a big time Academy Award winning actress from America who has a small supporting role in the movie. And when you see her, you're going to be like, wow, is that who I think that is? And then as you begin to hear her story's character, you're like, yeah, that is her. I can't believe there's an American actress on here who's an Academy Award winning. And you may be a fan of hers, you may not. I'm kind of on the border. I was a fan of hers back in the day, but when I say back in the day, I'm talking about the 90s. So be on the watch for that. But if you want a nice period, the thing about this movie, it is filmed in France during the end of World War I. So you have that. It's got that romantic period time frame. I mean, how romantic can you get in France in the early 1900s? So you've got the French countryside, you got the French trains, you got the French food, you got the French romance story going on. Actually, it kind of helped inspire my hat for today. The little French newsboys, a couple of characters are wearing them. So when I saw it, I woke up this morning, saw it was raining. I'm like, I'm going to wear my newsboy today in honor of the movie. But it has a little slight French humor in there. There is a, how do I say, there is a pet of one of the characters in there that has a quirk that is kind of common, but the way that the storyline picks it and makes fun of an animal's actions is kind of funny. So that just lends more towards the European culture and the innocence of the movie. So I think you'll enjoy that. So if you're an animal, there are a couple scenes with dogs and cats in this. So I think you will enjoy the humor of that. Again, if you're looking for a great romantic movie to watch for Valentine's Day, head on over to Amazon. You can stream it on Amazon. You can stream it on YouTube. I think Amazon has it like $2.99. I have the collector's edition 2 CD DVD set of it, just because I was such a big fan of it. I wanted to get the second CD and get behind the scenes stories from the director and the actors and actresses. It is based on a popular European novel called A Very Long Engagement. So When this movie came out in the early 2000s, the Europeans were really happy because it's like seeing, like, Marvel fans like me who were waiting for the Marvel Cinematic Universe to really take off with what Disney did with it. It's the same type of expectation and hope that the Europeans had for this movie being made based on the book. I don't know how much it follows the book because I didn't read the book, but it was real popular in Europe. So I think you'll enjoy and get a feel for it when we dive into this commentary on the scenes. Actually, I've done a kind of a montage of scenes. What I wanted to do with this commentary, I wanted you to see that backstory that you wouldn't see if you watched the movie, because I want you to see what's coming. The scenes we're going to watch now are actually about halfway through the movie. I think I started right around 1 hour and 6 minutes into the movie where you get the backstory of the childhood. So I'm kind of going against the format of the movie by showing you the backstory in this movie. So I'm going to let you see the backstory of the childhood. Then I'm going to give you a taste of what happens to the two main characters, which are Monet, which is the guy, and Matilda. Matilda is the American version of her name, but the French version I can't say, so it's Mathilde, I guess you could say. So there's something that happens to separate these two lovers. So you'll see that towards the end of this, these scenes that I put together, and you'll see why they have a very long engagement. But don't worry, I'm not going to spoil the ending, and trust me, you don't want to miss the end of this movie. I mean, it's one of those movie endings that isn't definite. I mean, it gives you what you want, it solves the conflict from the beginning of the movie. It concludes the character arc where Mathilde's searching for her lover to find out what happened to him, but it doesn't do it in a way that's the end of the story, and it just leaves you wanting more. And as far as I know, there's no sequel to this movie, which there could be, but there's not. But enough of me talking, let's get into this movie. Alright, so stay tuned. Again, the scenes I'm starting with, the childhood, is about 1 hour and 6 minutes in the movie. Now before you watch it, I need to go ahead and give you a little update. One of the things I like about the movie is the main character, Matilda, Audrey Tautel's character, has polio. Again, this is set back in the 1900s before treatments for polio advanced, and polio is pretty common, so she's disabled. And you'll see that in the scenes that you're going to see where she's disabled with polio. So that's one of the other things that attracted me to this movie, because it's one of the few movies you see where the lead character is disabled. But you also see how that her disability, I don't want to say it inspires her to never give up on love and never to give up on life. And see, that's the type of movies I feel led to write and make. Movies of persons with disabilities who overcome against all odds. So that is the type of movie this is. Audrey Tautel's characters, not only is she looking for her lost lover, she's fighting her body, which is ravaged with polio. And there are some scenes in there where she's getting early treatments for polio back in the day, and that's part of the brief nudity scenes. So that you'll notice in these scenes that Audrey Tautel's character, even as a child, is disabled, and that only increases the payoff in this movie. So you have a disabled character who's searching for her lost love, all while trying to fight her body. Her body's fighting against her. Yeah, she's got to go get out of her comfort zone, travel across Europe to try and find her lost love. Find out if he's even alive. And if so, find him. So, with that said, let's get into this now.
For as long as they've known each other, Mathilde and Manek have wanted to get married. But fate had other plans. The only thing she's been told is he's missing. If he were dead, Mathilde would know. From the director of Amelie comes the story of one woman's courage to unlock a mystery that could break her heart.